Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for choosing Across the Fence. I'm Will Michael in for Fran Stoddard. The University of Vermont has a new research vessel on Lake Champlain. It's a first-of-its-kind hybrid electric boat that will serve as a floating classroom and laboratory. The 64-foot aluminum catamaran was brought up the lake on Monday to its home at UVM's Rubenstein Ecosystems Lab, located at the Leahy Center on the Burlington waterfront. The research vessel is named the Marcelle Melosira. It honors Marcelle Leahy and the legacy of the Melosira, the boat that was replaced by the new one. Marcelle Melosira was constructed by Director Shipyards in New York and brought up the Hudson River and onto Lake Champlain. The new boat will help UVM scientists carry out a wide range of projects, things like restoring lake trout populations or probing climate change. It also serves as a real-time classroom for UVM students, as well as middle school, high school, and public grant groups taking part in the Sea Grant Watershed Alliance education program. The boat is able to run on all-electric power for trips under 2 hours. That means low emissions with few vibrations, nearly silent for students and researchers, and less intrusive for studying fish and other wildlife in and on the lake. The boat is also the first in the world to house a winch system for research trawling and plankton net that allows operation using a single wireless joystick. The scientists with Lake Champlain Sea Grant who use the boat are predicting a rise in toxic cyanobacteria blooms following the disastrous flooding earlier this month. UVM scientists say phosphorus runoff carried by the floodwaters will cause more cyanobacteria blooms, also known as blue-green algae. For more on the science behind cyanobacteria, we have this report from UVM Sea Grant.
In recent years, it's become more common for people to see areas of lakes and ponds that have a thick, greenish scum layer on the water's surface. These areas appear as if they are paint-stained or pea soup-like and emit a foul-smelling aroma.
These areas are called blooms. Sometimes you'll hear them called harmful algal blooms, but they're actually made with a bacteria called cyanobacteria. And the cyanobacteria get their name because of their color. They're blue-green in color, and that word cyanos means blue-green, so that's what they look like on the water. They actually grow in excessive amounts when conditions are right.
These blooms are most likely to occur in shallow, nutrient-enriched waters during periods of warm, calm, and sunny weather during summer and fall. Cyanobacteria can grow most readily when water temperatures exceed 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Heavy rains can bring added nutrients to local water bodies from across the landscape, increasing the chance for a bloom. Toxins are sometimes, but not always, present in these blooms, and they can come and go in short periods of time. Exposure to cyanotoxins either by touching or ingesting contaminated water or through inhalation of airborne toxins can affect the liver, nerves, and skin of both people and animals.
Scientists are working hard to understand the factors that influence the presence of toxins so that they can predict for the users of the lake and those that live nearby when toxins are present and when they aren't. Unfortunately, we're not there yet, so we have to treat every cyanobacteria bloom with caution.
Making sure that you can recognize a cyanobacteria bloom is the best way to stay safe. If your dog is exposed to cyanotoxins, they can experience symptoms such as skin rash, difficulty breathing, loss of appetite, vomiting, diarrhea, seizures, paralysis, or even death.
A general rule of thumb is if you can pick it up with a stick, it's not cyanobacteria. There are exceptions to this rule though, so the best advice is, when in doubt, stay out.
No matter the reason you are headed to a lake or a pond, whether to walk your dog, swim, kayak, paddleboard, sail, fish, or for some other reason, one of the most important things that you can do is to take a moment to scan the water to look for possible blooms before anyone enters the water, including your dog.
You should know how to recognize if your local beach is closed. If you aren't sure, check with your municipality or the state.
If a bloom is present, you can use the Cyano Tracker website to see if a nearby beach is open and free from a bloom, and head there instead. If you are near a water body and suspect a bloom is present, stay out of the water. keep your dog on a leash, and prevent them from wading in or drinking the water, and from eating any scum that has washed ashore.
If your dog does enter contaminated water, keep them from licking their fur, and then wearing gloves, use clean water and a towel to wipe away any evidence of the bloom from their fur. And then wash your hands and watch your dog for any sign of exposure. If you notice any, call your vet right away.
So scan the water, remember to pay attention to the signage at your favorite beach, and of course keep tuned to the Channel 3 News for updates on blue-green algae. And our thanks to Lake Champlain Sea Grant Institute for sharing that video. Our final segment today shows how science and education together can help businesses. A couple of years ago, as hemp farming became more common, UVM Extension worked with a hemp extraction company to help farmers and consumers understand that safety and sustainability are key. Keith Silva has the story.
There's some cutting-edge chemistry happening at Kris Botanicals in South Burlington.
This is where the magic happens.
Kris Botanicals is a hemp extraction and co-manufacturing facility. Daniel Chang is the Chief Operations Officer.
We're a contract manufacturer and we do not have a retail brand of our own. You come to us with a product idea, we develop it with you, we source everything, package it, and ship it off to you ready for retail. We are a USDA organic certified lab. We were the first one in Vermont and the first in the Northeast. And what that means is that we had eyes on us. We were being audited by a third-party agency. They came in, they look at our records, they look at how we keep our ingredients, how we store things, how we clean things, and they've given us their stamp of approval.
There's anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 pounds of hemp in an acre. It takes roughly 100 pounds of hemp to make 1 gallon of unprocessed oil. Using this example, 1,000 pounds of hemp equates to 10.5 gallons of oil. Extractors like Kris Botanicals distill that unprocessed oil down even further to be used in food and medicine for people and pets, or into health and beauty products.
The barrier to entry to extraction is considerable. The equipment is specified, it's quite expensive. A lot of it is chemistry equipment, and the employees that we employ to run this equipment, these aren't $15 an hour jobs. These are salaried employees with degrees in science, advanced degrees, some of them. So it's a different level up than just doing this in your basement or an artisan level.
Kris Botanicals sources nearly 100% of their hemp from organic growers in Vermont.
And at a certain temperature,
they're working with UVM Extension to educate growers about the important role extraction plays in the production of hemp products.
Heather Darby at UVM Extension has been a wonderful resource for Vermont hemp growers. She's been in this since the very beginning. Working with the university extension program has allowed us to do more outreach. It's given us more exposure to show who we are and how important it is to operate a legitimate business in this space and the benefits of doing so.
This project is funded by a grant from the USDA Northeast Risk Management Education Program to train farmers about managing the marketing, legal, and safety risk for hemp products. Susie Hodgson is a sustainable agriculture specialist with UVM Extension.
Hemp itself is a kind of hungry plant, so it will kind of soak up and eat up everything. So if your hemp plant happens to contain like heavy metals and you didn't test for that or didn't know that and decided to make your own extract, that would be concentrated in that, say, tincture you wanted to make. So it's really important that the hemp gets tested when it's grown, gets tested at the lab, gets tested as a product all along the way. There's a lot of chemistry, and you may be a great farmer, but are you really a chemist? Have you distilled things before? Have you worked with that sort of equipment? At the end of the day, you want to be able to sell your product, and you want the customer to have confidence in that product.
Transparent with the
Chang co-founded Kris Botanicals with Bill Lofi. One of their guiding principles is to be transparent in all facets of their business. Given its association with marijuana, the hemp industry often struggles with legitimacy. Not to mention, the regulation of hemp-based products like CBD trails behind the market.
Maybe the original sin of this whole industry is the truth in labeling. There is no truth in labeling. So when you go out in the market and you buy a bottle of CBD at your local gas station, chances are it's nothing close to what's on the label. And potential that there are harmful chemicals or heavy metals or things in that because it's not being properly tested, because the regulation has just lagged in a market that has grown globally so quickly. Speaking for Korea Botanicals, before anything comes into our laboratory, the hemp, the raw material, it's tested for potency, for microbial contamination, for heavy metals, pesticides, mycotoxins, all sorts, a whole pantheon of tests to make sure that it's clean. The oil that we extract, we test for all of those same things to make sure nothing passed through to the oil. Once the oil passes quality, it can go to production and we'll formulate, say, a tincture or a gummy bear or whatever out of that oil.
Because hemp oil is used in food and as medicine, it needs to follow strict food safety guidelines.
It's important to know that 1 dropper full is 1 dropper full, not 5 dropper fulls, because if you give it to your child or your dog or your grandma, you want to have the intended effect. We need to be upfront with testing, with analytics, with regulation, with fire safety, with employee training. Everything has to be on point like any other legitimate manufacturing business, especially when you're talking about food or dietary supplements or medicine. Hemp actually gets run
Working with UVM Extension to educate farmers and consumers about food safety is one way to make sure this budding industry continues to grow. In South Burlington, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.
Thank you, Keith, and thank you for joining us. We know you have choices, and we thank you for choosing us. I'm Will Michael, inviting you to join us back here each weekday afternoon for another visit Across the Fence.